Bullshit.
It's the No BS Marketing Show. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. Our guest today is Lou Castelli, Director of External Affairs for the Pittsburgh Public Theater. But first, let's hit the bullseye. Allen Iverson was recently elected to the Basketball Hall of Fame. He was certainly deserving, a great player and amazing competitor. Yet most people remember him more for his infamous rant during the 2002 NBA playoffs. Do my best Iverson imitation of that press conference. Listen here, I'm supposed to be the franchise player, and we in here talking about practice. I mean, listen, we talking about practice, not a game. We're talking about practice. We're talking about practice. Practice. It's a great example, and that's actually the text I was reading from. It wasn't made up. That's the text. Now, my imitation might have been crappy, but saying practice, I think 37 times in the span of a minute and a half. It's a great example of how important practice is, but I'm referencing how important practice is with respect to messaging, speaking, presenting. When he went off about practice in 2002, Allen Iverson actually wasn't complaining about practice, but since his messaging was undisciplined and done when he was in an emotional state due to the recent murder of a friend, he came away sounding like a spoiled, whining star. Actually, Iverson was making the point that instead of talking about him being late for or missing a practice, we should put things into perspective. His friend had just been murdered. He also wanted people to know that while he gave his all, his heart, his soul, his body to the team, he wishes he could have done more. He wanted people to know that he actually worked hard in practice, something his coach, Larry Brown, acknowledged. Instead, many people will think, practice? We talking about practice when they hear Iverson's name, even casual fans or non-fans. It makes the case for message discipline, understanding your target audiences, which Lou has talked about in episode 1, and I'm sure he'll talk about more in episode 2. Preparing your message pillars and delivering them from the heart. Yes, that might sound contradictory, but it's not. We all need to speak genuinely and with passion to make the most impact with our message. But to do so takes practice, prepared speech, but not a memorized one. An outline of what you want to cover, but delivered with passion and your own style. Iverson seemed to do just that in his Hall of Fame acceptance speech. It was moving and memorable. You could tell he did one thing a lot before the ceremony: practice. The No BS Show is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/nobs. Try a book like The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. You can download it for free today. Go to audibletrial.com/nobs. Again, that's audibletrial.com/nobs for whatever free audiobook you choose. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Our guest today is Lou Castelli. Great episode 1 where he talked about being vulnerable and gave a tremendous story about his background. Very interesting stuff. He's currently Director of External Affairs for Pittsburgh Public Theater. He's been there a while. He's received some promotions. Started off at the Symphony after an internship, which we'll touch on a little bit here again in episode 2. But Pittsburgh Public Theater, I took a look at their website, and it's just a great summary. Contemporary theater in the heart of downtown Pittsburgh's cultural district. What I like about it is, Lou, you have the opportunity to continually tell a great story about Pittsburgh Public Theater, mentioning the unique three-quarter thrust stage, the audience surrounding the actors on 3 sides, offering intimate, engaging professional theater. You also can tell the story about how every season has a series of diverse theatrical productions that encompass classics of the American theater, masterworks from the international repertoire, world premieres, contemporary plays, and musicals of exceptional merit. In episode 1, you talked about your mentors, one of them being Marvin Hamlish. It doesn't get any bigger than that in your space. Lou, welcome to episode 2 of the No BS Marketing Show.
Thank you, and I'm happy to tell you that we're going to have a brand new website launch in November. ppt.org is way out of date. So we don't have a mobile responsive site right now. So I'm glad you were able to get good information on us. But one of the things we've been hoping to do is become more modern, not only with our programming, but with our website. So come back and visit ppt.org. Brand new, beautiful, mobile responsive
and
site.
that's coming up real soon.
Yeah.
So that's good. You're getting it done. Well, the messaging is really strong, and that's what the key thing is for me. Someone who it readily admits, I'm the sports guy, love sports, and so I don't know much about Pittsburgh Public Theater. So I just quickly Googled you, got to read some cool stuff about you, some interviews you were on. Something with your birthday a few years ago, and then your LinkedIn page, and then went to the site for Pittsburgh Public Theater. And I love that summary because you can visualize that. When you hear that stuff about the stage, it immediately pops in your head, and that's good copy and good writing. So in the first episode, you talked about going to college at Allegheny, correct?
Correct.
You were with Suzanne Mayer, 6 degrees of separation to Suzanne. Everybody that I know somehow is tied to Suzanne Mayer, everybody that everybody knows. And we joked about the Trenton Reznor thing with her. But I do want you to touch a little bit again, just briefly, about how you took an internship and how you approached the internship and what that ended up resulting in.
So the thing about an internship when you have the kind of work ethic that I was raised with is you feel fortunate to get into an industry that might light your fire a little bit, and you see this opportunity to make a name for yourself. And I think that's what happened for me. After maybe a few series of stops and starts in the creative world that I thought, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that, I kind of felt like I found a home, and I didn't want to lose that. So I think the thing about an internship is it gives you an opportunity to separate yourself from the pack. And I think when people see that you're doing something because you want this to define a portion of your career and you're taking advantage of it and really running with it, not just showing up and marking time, I think that is the way for you to open a door, especially in an industry that's competitive. I think that a lot of people who get into internships in creative fields have an opportunity to set themselves apart. And I think that's what I tried to do. And I don't even think it was conscious. I think it was, wow, I like this. I'm going to keep doing it. And I think the cream rises to the top. There you go.
I think that's great. And I'll give you an example that happened to Mass Solutions. We typically have an intern, and we have a program we try to formally use. But last semester in the spring, I had 3 different students from 3 different schools had found out about us through knowing me or someone in my network, or had me in class, or just learned about the company. And 3 different students approached me, went directly to me, not the person who runs the internship program, and they asked about an internship. And I said, we already have our internship that's budgeted. However, we're open to working with someone else. We certainly have enough work, and you can work on A, B, C. And through the course of the conversation, they were excited, saying they could do that. And then they said, is it paid? And I said, no, it's not budgeted. But again, you approached us and I'll do this for you. And all 3 declined. So what's great about that is they're not meant for working with us, and they're probably not necessarily meant for working in a marketing firm.
Correct.
Because if you're passionate about your field like you were and like my field, if someone's passionate about getting into working for a marketing company, or if someone's passionate about getting into the arts as a marketer, they have to be able to do, like our latest intern said to Mike Gaddy and me, I need the experience and I need to learn. I will work as many hours as you need me. Don't worry about the hours.
It's called paying your dues.
Exactly.
It is exactly that. And this is where I know I've switched generations and I'm an old dude now. When I look at people who aren't willing to pay their dues, it throws me. I don't understand it. It is mind-boggling to me, because I came up at a time when you needed to prove yourself, and there wasn't an expectation that it would be a particular way. And this is where I feel slightly cynical and jaded as a professional, that there are people who are waiting for the plum position right out of college. It's not how it works.
Nope.
Especially in this field. It is a learn as you go. I don't care how well studied you are, and I don't care what degree you have. To understand an audience, you have to be in it. You have to experience their joys and frustrations, their wants, their desires, their complaints, their misery that they bring into their experience that existed from something else that occurred to them or happened to them that day. If you don't get that kind of in the field experience, which an internship very easily provides, you're missing out on becoming good at marketing your product. You have to have that in the trenches experience. You can't simulate it. You have to experience it.
And it's interesting because when we've had interns that understood that, and like the latest one that we have now, you can tell they're going to do well or they have done well. And the ones who made it more like it was a requirement and they had to notch it off the checklist that I did an internship, they didn't get as much out of it. Right. We certainly didn't get as much out of them.
And then maybe they move on to another internship where they get it.
Maybe.
But I do think that there is that, and now for me, the shoe's on the other foot. I'm like you, experiencing people who want to take on an internship for the public theater. Is it because they love the arts? Is it because they love marketing? Is it some combination? Or is it because they need a requirement for a specific degree program? What I know is the interns who set themselves apart do the thing that you don't want to have done before you think about doing it. Mm-hmm. There are amazing young people coming up still who solve the problem before it becomes one. And that's the person I want to join my team. So if they're that intern, I want to find a way to get them to stay.
Exactly. And I can't say it enough. It's like you can just tell, Gary Vaynerchuk, the big blog guy, he's an amazing. Okay, so Gary V has his podcast, and I was listening to his podcast, and that's the first thing. I think podcasts are going to continue to grow once people start realizing what they really are. Like, talk about older people. Like, if you're over 40 and you haven't tried a podcast, it's because you don't understand what it is, because you can listen to it while you're cooking, you listen to it while you're watching, while you're driving, whatever, and it's simple. So I'm listening to Gary Vee, and he said something that was so true that I got away from. And I used to do this, and I'm wondering if you do as well. When I was at UPMC and I had truly no time, I knew that I was at a multi-billion-dollar company in a huge position. We were doing massive growth, and I would make my evaluations and judgments so quickly. And looking back, I thought, as you get older and as you mature, I'm like, I was probably too harsh and I probably made too many judgmental decisions. Well, that's true, but I went a little too far, which is you talk about your Catholic guilt. I overcompensate a lot. And I think I overcompensated and became almost too forgiving now. Because Gary Vee says, he goes, when you hire an employee or an intern, he says, I'll take interns because everybody calls in and asks these questions about how do you work with interns? And everybody was lamenting. And he says, it's your problem as much as theirs, because you should be with the intern as the CEO the full first day, most of that day, and portion of the second day. And by that time, are they a good intern, mediocre intern, or a sucky intern? Mm-hmm. And he said, and the same is true of employees. And it's funny because I had those kahunas before I went to Mass Solutions and probably before I had kids. My kids got older and everything, because I just became so much softer in a way, because Gary Vee's correct. I could tell at UPMC when we hired someone, and I could say the half of their first day, I could say that person's not going to work out. And people would say, you're so judgmental. But 99 out of 100 times I was right.
Sure.
And so what he's saying is, and I can already tell with our latest intern that they're going to probably do well because of the attitude. How do you ask questions? What are you thinking? And so Gary Vee was saying you should, as the person that's running that, spend that time with that intern. And by the end of the first day, you then adjust. If they're going to be sucky, you're now doing it as a charitable thing, which we all should do. We all should do charitable stuff as a company. And you say, this intern's going to suck. So we might have to make them make the Starbucks run.
Right.
This one's going to be mediocre. So we're going to give them a little bit of work, not enough for them to screw up too much. And this one's going to be great. And let's give them more. And make the move.
The eye-opening thing for me was having an intern who, for the first time, made me realize this person's going to get my job someday. This person's smarter than me. This person's more aware of trends in today's marketing world. For me, as a manager, to always have the awareness that someone coming up behind you could potentially be better than you. And what do you do with that? what I learned quickly was you encourage it. I want someone better than me because they're going to make me look good. And that's what ended up happening. Mm-hmm. So I think that's the other interesting thing when you're able to, as you said, maybe make a decision based on past or spending some time with someone and seeing whether they're good or not. It's also that awareness of, wait, the next generation is here. Like this is a big deal. I have an opportunity to foster a talent who someday could look back on me as a mentor. That's an amazing thing. You're not always thinking that way because there's a pressure on you in your workplace to get the job done. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you have to think bigger picture and say, this person could be that rare superstar and I'm in their presence. And instead of being intimidated or threatened by it, it should be gratifying because it could teach you something along the way too.
Absolutely.
The No BS Marketing Podcast with Dave Mastovich is brought to you by Mass Solutions. Put our 3-step No BS process to work for you. Visit masssolutions.biz today to take your marketing to another level. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.
When it comes to messaging, you and I were talking before we hit the live button for the mic to tape it. And we were talking about Simon Sinek's book and how when he said, start with why, I felt that was only half the question for you and I, for the marketers, because we have to ask our customers, our why is our reason for being. That's the first why. We have to ask our why. What's our reason for being? Then we have to ask the second why, our customers' why or reason for buying. And the answers aren't exactly the same.
Right.
That doesn't mean you give up and say, oh, we had this mission, and they're not exactly the same. You try to form that into a one core message or common theme that takes those two answers and coalesces them into something that can be meaningful. And that's what I call the answer to the question of what's the big idea. Mm-hmm. So the two whys lead to the big idea. So whether it's for you personally or for Pittsburgh Public Theater, what's your big idea?
So I feel like I entered into the arts marketing world at a very interesting time because all performing arts marketing, people buying tickets, there was a tradition that existed. There was a very traditional support base for symphony music, ballet, civic light opera, public theater, a traditional group of people that bought traditional packages, season tickets, subscriptions, what everyone buys still for sports teams. But at the time, when I came out, people were buying 12 concert subscriptions, 24 concert subscriptions to the symphony, 6 play subscriptions to the public theater, same seats, same series, show up, do your job, pay your money up front, your dates are on your calendar, everything's set. It was making sure they knew about it, making sure it was priced correctly, making sure you got your message out maybe before your competition. But there was a very set and standard way to do the marketing work. And as things have changed, as newspapers become digital and as you customize your own burrito and do everything differently now, we were still the same. And you say the why of the audience is changing as well. So you still have this traditional base. There are fewer of them for many reasons. And then you have the younger audience, which I hear about every day from someone. What are we doing to bring the young audience in? As if the young audience is one generic group that all have the same interests and all are motivated the same way and all have the same hot buttons to press. And you've, in my role and in many other people's roles in organizations that are in the midst of change, you have to satisfy the current audience, the loyalists, and you have to be relevant to the up-and-comers. How do you get them in? What do you do to appeal to them? And my big idea isn't a big creative, innovative, earth-shaking idea. It's a learn from trends and change the way you do business to potentially live up to what the next generation is expecting. So I was saying we sell 6 play packages. The fear of commitment that exists in our society stops people from buying 6 play packages. Well, what if I'm busy one night and You tell them about your ticket exchange policy, and that's still not enough. So the earth-shattering thing that I'm going to say is we now sell 3-play packages. Not so earth-shattering. But what we do, the way we package that is we allow people to customize their own series. It's not that hard. It's not earth-shattering, but it is living up to the customized experience expectation that everyone has now, including me. Like I said, you customize your burrito, your computer, your music choices, your TV choices via Netflix, whatever it is, your coffee, everything is to your stand. Correct. To what do you want to put in it? Like one of my favorite restaurants is Burgatory. Because of how you can create your own hamburger. And I love the way they packaged it, and I love the way that they designed it, and I love the way that they drew me in. I'm like the wet dream for a marketing director. Whatever like little strategy or trend you want to put out there, I'll fall for it. So it's where I learn my best stuff, and it's where I fall for the best tricks. So we're now really finding our success in terms of engaging people with a customized 3-play package. So you mentioned earlier that we do a diverse season of programming, from contemporary to classic, musical, Shakespeare, the latest thing from Broadway or off Broadway, cutting edge drama, adult comedy. It's a big mix, and we produce it ourselves. So it's not presentations that are touring that hit our stage. We build it here. We create everything from scratch, from the sets to the costumes to the lighting, but it's always something different. So I learned early at the symphony, the worst thing to say is something for everyone, because it's really it's a lot for no one. So you kind of have to drive people towards things that might appeal to them, figure out your targets, figure out from your database who's buying what kind of product, and then continue to offer them more of that. And in our case, with these customized packages, it allows us to go out to people who like new work, and they can pick 3 new plays. Or we can go out to people who like classics, and they can pick 3 classics. But they can pick the date, they can pick the day of the week, they can exchange it, they can do a Saturday, a Friday, and a Wednesday instead of 3 Tuesdays. They can do it however they want. We have to be flexible while they're enjoying flexibility. It's something that's learned. It's something that, occasionally a challenge based on the old habits, but it's keeping people in the family. It's keeping them coming. That, as we know, if once they're in the funnel, it's like, what do you do with them? How do you keep them on the path to being a lifelong customer? You have to change with them. So my big idea is being aware of the why of the customer being crucial to your longevity. We can't keep doing it unless we do it the way people expect us to. We can't fit the square peg into the round hole. We've tried, and I will continue to try, trust me, but you still have to have other options on the other side of it. Just still be willing to ride the wave with people as they change. It's very frustrating sometimes as a marketing person, because you really do want to say, this is amazing. Buy this. This is perfect for you. You bought 3 full price tickets over the course of a season, and you're not going to come buy a 6-play package. It's so much less expensive. You get so many more benefits. You make the case. What they want is to say, I'll come when I want to come. So you have to be willing to be that for them. Just make sure that you're keeping them in the loop, informed, and happy.
We're with Lou Castelli, Director of External Affairs, Pittsburgh Public Theater. Lou, one of the things that I think is challenging for the city of Pittsburgh is all of these different amazing things that the suburb, people in the suburbs don't know much about. And being one of the people in the suburbs, I can speak to it. Stefan Bontrager of Riverlight Pittsburgh was a guest. And
I love him.
While he was talking, I was I felt embarrassed a little bit, because we're right here at the point, and he's describing the miles of river life and everything. I'm going like, oh man, how do I never walk over there? Okay, so I admit my own lack of it. And I have an office in the Pittsburgh and come to the city regularly. How do you tackle that? And what is your current audience? Who do you want to reach? Just tell me the whole story about your challenges with Pittsburgh Public Theater of reaching people who you do reach, who you don't reach well enough.
So you always want your audience to be more diverse. Our audience, and that could be diverse in any way: age, ethnicity, education level, household income. You want everyone. That's what you want. You want more people to. We have the word public, Public, in our name. So you want it.
Well, you might have to tell that story since we're now on episode 2. If someone only listens to episode 1.
Just make sure you spell check the word and proofread accurately, because it could become pubic. So I would say that you are constantly aware of the fact that your audience, at least where I am, is fairly narrow. So the one reality check I give myself as a marketing person is we impact very happily the lives of 100,000 people a year, those 100,000 visitors that come through. Some of those people come through more than once. So in terms of unique individuals, it's not that high. But you have to realize you're not necessarily impacting the community at large as you'd like to, and as your mission would say you should. There's only so much you can do to do that. But in terms of being aware of it, we try to reach out to people by creating opportunities to come in with tickets that are discounted. So if you're 26 or younger, or a full-time student of any age, you can get a $15 ticket at any time to come into the public theater. So we're providing an access point, hopefully, for the audience of the future.
What is someone 25 that comes to the first time ever? They hear this promotion and they decide they're going to come with a couple. Mm-hmm. What do they wear?
So they wear whatever they want. Okay. It's a very casual experience. And you will find, I think that the dress code part of getting people to clear the hurdle of attending performing arts is loosening a little bit. In general, as we talked in episode 1, people are becoming more casual. So that's coming across, I think our grandparents probably put on suits and ties to go on an airplane back in the day.
You look at old pictures of baseball games and football games, and they had suits on.
Right. It's crazy, right? So now I think the casual nature of life has found its way into theater going, and I think it's terrific. If that's what you're wearing to the movie, wear it to the public. That's great. We welcome it.
Because I'm going to try to convince my teenage son and his girlfriend to come, but I know his first question is going to be, what would I wear? So you've answered it.
It's easy. $15 too. Great date night. But the other thing is, I think that you mentioned people in the suburbs who aren't aware of what we do. We're working with limited budgets in terms of getting the marketing message out there. We try our best to get it out there. Sometimes it resonates, sometimes it doesn't. But as you, I'm sure, hear from many of the people who sit in front of you, our biggest, most valuable tool in our toolbox is word of mouth. And I do think within our subscriber base and our single ticket buying base, the people who come and see a show and are impacted by it tell their friends and neighbors. And I think it's incumbent upon me as a marketing person to give people the tools to share an email or tell a friend about an offer through giving them tickets to bring other people into the theater with them. I think that our board and our volunteer base, who lives in all of the areas that are outside of the city, although we do have a very strong presence in the city itself, are people who spread the word for us. Buzz agents make a big difference for selling theater. When you go see, we're doing the Fantastics right now, this old musical. It's the longest running musical in history. It ran for 42 years in New York, and the Public Theater has never produced it. We're doing it now. And if someone sees that play, that musical, and has a pleasant experience and drives home with their husband and has a nice conversation about it and goes to work the next day and tells someone over coffee about it, and that person drives home and sees one of our billboards and then maybe gets a digital ad that they click on that we can then measure, it feeds the marketing process for us. So that's our hope. It doesn't always work. And there are times where there's a group of people you have to acknowledge just won't care. And that's okay.
Yes, exactly. You're not going to please everyone. I just want to see the opportunity of all this great stuff in the city. That's part of the goal of this podcast, the No BS Marketing Show, is to have leaders talk about communication and their services and their companies, because any listener can learn from that and hopefully begin to use so many great things we have in the city.
Well, and it is interesting that you bring up Stefan, a very good friend of mine, and does such great work for River Life. But when you go to, say, Party at the Pier, which I know he talked about when he was on, and you see the demographic that's represented there, and you see how you could get your message in front of them for coming to see a play, that's the other thing that you're able to do, is come up with creative partnerships with kindred spirits in the city of Pittsburgh, because there are a lot of people who are aware of a lot of these different things. But then there are a few people that only know of one or the other. Well, when they're having a beer at Party at the Pier, if they see that you're sponsoring a play at the Public Theater that they didn't even know existed, that's one of the first ways in. It's one of the first ways in. Then they have to be reminded about it. But still, it's a good way forging those partnerships is a good way to increase awareness.
Absolutely. Lou Castelli of Pittsburgh Public Theater, Director of External Affairs. It's time for you to pick a tool that you'd offer that'll help our audience tell their story, craft their message, communicate to internal and external target audience, or just help them with their daily, weekly, monthly productivity. It could be a tool like Google Trends to generate content ideas. It could be your favorite book, blog, or productivity resource, or anything you think that could help them improve their work life.
So this is not going to be revolutionary, but what's been really working for us are Facebook ads, which surprises me. What I think is really unique for public theater and any other entertainment venue is when you place a Facebook ad and target appropriately, those comments that people start to make on that ad become your word of mouth. It's been very interesting and eye-opening for me when we have a play that starts, or a musical that starts to gain momentum. You can feel it from the amount of likes you get, and then the comments, which become basically reviews. People don't realize they're interacting with ads, which is very interesting to me. They will tag a friend and say, "We should go do this, Debbie," or whatever, and they think that they're responding to some organic post and it's a paid ad, and I love that. But I would say, in terms of an efficient media buy, that's been one that's been surprising to me. I think that there's so much of it now that maybe some people write it off, but for us, it's been very productive. The other thing, I think, in terms of social media, I think that Instagram has become such a beautiful way for people to promote their product. I know for us, because we create art, to actually show the visual has been very helpful. I think it helps you to draw people in who want to be a little bit more seduced by something a visual.
Good stuff. Lou, was there anything I didn't ask you thought I would, or is there anything you didn't mention that you want to mention about Pittsburgh Public Theater?
I mean, no, I would say, as I was saying to you earlier before we started, the idea of coming to theater for me and experiencing theater, if you like to walk in other people's shoes, if you like a movie, if you like a TV show, the greatest thing about a theatrical experience is you see it in front of you. You can live someone else's life over the course of 90 minutes to 2 hours in your jeans at a reasonable ticket price, where you can still have an inexpensive cocktail while you're at the theater. I just think more people should give it a go.
Great. Lou, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
To our listeners, thanks for joining us for the No BS Marketing Show. Visit masssolutions.biz, click on podcasts for show notes plus additional marketing and messaging resources. Also, sign up for Light Reading. You'll receive valuable strategies every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. Again, to sign up, visit masssolutions.biz, click on Light Reading. Ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions.